Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we are taking a new card from Modern Horizons 3 for a spin. Not one of the bigger, showier cards from the set, but it's a pretty cool one nonetheless. This is Planar Genesis. This is a 2-mana instant. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't, put a card from among them in your hand, and the rest on the bottom in random order. So this is Impulse that can be Growth Spiral if you want it to be. So the deck we're playing it in is Blue-Green Omni-Tell, which is a deck that would happily run Impulse, and as you can see, we are running Impulse alongside the Planar Genesis. So clearly, this is the sort of thing we're looking for. The reason why this effect is good is just being able to dig for specific pieces, and those specific pieces in this deck is Show and Tell into Omniscience. Once we have Omniscience, we can then cast either Cunning Wish or Emrakul the Aeons Torn, or like a bunch of cantrips till we find one of them. So the Cunning Wish can find us Shared Summons, which can then get us the Emrakul, and we can just put Emrakul into play. Alternatively, we can do Firemind's Foresight, so we can search our library for a card with mana value 3, reveal it, put it into your hand, then repeat the process for mana values 2 and 1. So we can go and get another Cunning Wish, and then, you know, some more cantrips and stuff like that to get things going, or, you know, go and find a Veil of Summer if we think that's going to be what we need. Basically, we can find pretty much what we need off of this. And we also have an oldie but a goodie. So this is Release the Ants. So this deals 1 damage to any target, and then you clash with an opponent. If you win, return this card to its hand. So clash is each player flips the top card of their library, and whoever's got the higher one wins the clash, and then you get to choose where you put that card, whether it's the top or the bottom of your library. So the idea is, with this, we can then Brainstorm the Emrakul on top, cast Release the Ants, and because we're casting it for free off the Omniscience, we'll flip over the Emrakul that's on top of our library, and then we can just do this ad infinitum. The reason you would want to do that is if something like a Ensnaring Bridge was in the way and jamming you up, you can then just win by damage to the face with this. It doesn't come up very often, but it's an oldie but a goodie. Like, normally we're probably just going to end up getting, you know, something to bounce permanents and just go through that way. But it's a fun one, so let's have it in there. This deck, apart from that, is pretty much what you'd expect. You know, we've got our cantrips, we've got our Force of Wills to protect what we're trying to do. We've got a Fae of Wishes for more ability to go and find some of these extra pieces to answer problems and navigate our way through. And one of the reasons why Omni-Tell is an interesting deck right now, I would say, is Veil of Summer as a main deck card. Veil of Summer is great in the meta right now. If you're a deck that actively wants things like Veil of Summer in your main deck, then power to you, because this is going to help versus a lot of matchups like Scam and things like that. So this is how we're going to be forcing through our Show and Tell often, but we can protect ourselves from grief and all that jazz. We do have a one of Boseiju who shelters all that we can go and find as well when we're digging with our Planar Genesis, and this can give us an uncountable Show and Tell. Sometimes we have the One Ring, which we can then use to draw a bunch of cards and get our combo going, and that's pretty much it. This was a list I found in the 5.0 deck dump that looked interesting enough to me, and we wanted to showcase another new card, which is what we like to do here. Not really much else to say about this list, so remember to like and subscribe, and let's hop right in with a little bit of Omni-Tell action. Our opening hand for the first game does not really play Magic the Gathering, so we're going to send this one right back. Yeah, this looks pretty good. I will keep this one. What are we looking to bottom here? I think it's the Brainstorm, because we just have the wind sewn up with other stuff, and Veil of Summer can be our protection. Now this is where we get turn 1 griefed, and it's all lights out for us. Hopefully we're just going to see like a Ponder or something relatively innocuous. Derby Fetch and a Black Source. Tropical Island, okay. A Noble Hierarch. Sure. A Lotus Petal. A Lorien Revealed. So this means we can do a turn 3 protected Show and Tell Omniscience. That seems like it's going to be pretty good. So we'll play out this Misty Rainforest. We can fire a Veil of Summer if something happens that requires it. Otherwise we can just cycle this Lorien Revealed, get ourselves the extra land we need to do our Veil of Summer Show and Tell line. White and green mana. It's going to be like Knight of the Reliquary type stuff. Or just a Zenith. Nardu. Nardu is strong. Do we have the luxury of untapping? I think we do. Let's crack this. I think we have one trop here. That is interesting. I suppose we get the forest and then cycle for the island. It seems the safest way to make sure that we can't be wastelanded before our go turn. Another Show and Tell. Well, maybe we could have just gone for it, but we don't have the mana to do that now. We're playing around Wasteland, so we've got to hope our opponent doesn't just combo us out this turn. So we're hoping to dodge like a Shuko or a Nomads and Core style card. I don't know if they're on breakfast or if they're just on the Nadu combo deck that's been popping up a little bit. Could just be a Bantblade deck where you want to be playing more creatures just for the purposes of having more cards to draw. Please don't do it, opponent. Yikes. Okay. This is going to be bad news for us. So our opponent gets to draw at least 6 cards this turn, which means the chance of them being able to stop our combo are relatively high. They might be able to just flat out win the game this turn as well. Yeah, so I played around a Wasteland here. We could have tried to just go for the show and tell on that turn, thinking that the Nadu would probably have us beat anyway. We get to see what our opponent's drawing. They are a breakfast deck as well with the Illusionist. If they go for it here, we can't actually win the game. I wouldn't mind getting a look at our opponent's deck. I think I'll probably just cut to when we have our opponent's deck, because then you don't have to sit here and watch as our opponent clicks through, and I'll do that watching for you. Right, we're conceding the game before they resolve a Cabal Therapy and see what we're playing. But, yeah, they kind of just went for it there. They are playing Force of Wills and stuff in their deck. We don't know if they have any in their hand, but let's go to the sideboard. So, things that are useful in this matchup in various ways. We've got these cards here. Carpet Flowers is additional mana, which can be useful and help us go off a turn earlier sometimes. Force of Negation isn't actually great here. So, these are the options we have. How are we going to approach this one? The One Ring doesn't stop our opponent from winning the game, so I'm not really sure that this is actually a very good card here. Our opponent's draw engine is much better than the One Ring, which is kind of a wild thing to be saying, but here we are. I think we do want the Veils, so I think this gets us 1 Dismember. The Veils, they help us force through what we're doing, but they don't stop our opponent's plan. It's kind of an awkward one. We can probably trim on the Veils a little bit here and get another Dismember going, and probably a Surgical. Surgical is something we can shoot for with a Cunning Wish though. So maybe it's Cages. I'm just a little bit worried about being able to resolve our combo in the face of what our opponent's doing. Maybe we trim on an Impulse, bring this other Cage in, and try something like this. So like, we could board in Force of Negations, but then most of their lines just go through creatures, so we just end up doing nothing. Like, it makes an attempt, doesn't it? We can keep this. We could try to Cunning Wish for some sort of protection. Let's play out this island. But we probably have to contend with Daze and Force of Will from our opponent. A Windswept Heath. A Noble Hierarch. Force of Will be the best draw here. Not a Force of Will. We can just try and jam a show and tell and see if we win the game. But this plays into Daze, it plays into all sorts of things. I think I'd rather ponder and have one more turn to try and find something to deal with our opponents. So we could have a Dismember to kill their creature, but that feels like not what we're looking for. I think we're looking for the Force. Or a Boseiju or something here. Okay, that's also fine. I'm not expecting Wastelands out of our opponent now. Maybe we could have fetched the Tropical Island, so we, at least if we had a draw in game 1 for the show and tell, we could have gone off. Because we're unlikely to see... But we didn't know there were breakfast was a problem. We thought they might be the Stoneblade list, which can definitely run Wastelands. Yeah, I don't know. Tricky. Let's see, a Nomads here. We are. So we're almost certainly going to lose next turn, whether that's to Nadu or to the Separate Illusionist. Could we please have a Force of Will? We cannot. But we do have redundant show and tells. So we can try and jam this one through. Maybe this forces a Nadu or an Illusionist out of our opponent's hand. Or they're just going to like Spell Pierce or Flusterstorm us. And we'll be sad. Tundra. A Brainstorm in response. Okay, so they're looking for the answer. I don't really know where this funky new art for show and tell is from. But here it is. Love the little critters on this. Do we get to show and tell? We do. First things first, we cast the Omniscience, so if they have anything for this. Okay, we will cast this Impulse. I don't think our opponent's got any recourse here, but now we can just go Cunning Wish. There we go. Alright. Managed to clap back on that one. Do we want to change anything? I don't think so. We've got some protection to stop our opponent going off. Like, the Surge Extraction being a thing we can fetch off of Cunning Wish is probably slightly better than having it in the main, but it's kind of marginal either way. If we had red mana, I would genuinely think about boarding and release the Ants as removal, but that's not what we're about right now. I guess we could bring in Carpet and release the Ants, but maybe we're just getting silly there. Okay, I think we're just going to resubmit like this. If we can find our combo, we can send it on turn 3. We're just looking for the show and tell. I believe in the power of Brainstorm enough. We've got a fetch land to go with it as well. But if we want an uncounterable show and tell, we're going to have to be careful about when we play this Boseiju. Okay, so we might be dead next turn. That's a little bit yikes, but that's what Brainstorm is for. Solver of problems. Just hold this up and see if our opponent respects it or not. Or they just send it and hope that it's good enough. A Preordain. Happy to see that one. We will be brainstorming our opponent's end step. We just need this sort of velocity going forward. We can play Nomads here as well. The Nomads is much better than the Shuko because it's a creature, so it can do stuff with the Nadu. And also it's instant speed activation instead of sorcery speed. Right, let's go for a Brainstorm. Well, well, well. Not really what I'm after. So we can put back this Misty. And possibly the Genesis here. And then we can cycle the Lorien Revealed in our upkeep. I'll get the Trop. Our cup runneth over with Omnisciences. Let's ponder. We have a show and tell or counter magic. None of those. So this is in any order in shuffle. We found the show and tell. We can attempt to send it next turn. Boseiju does enter the battlefield tapped though. And we might not get another turn. And the fact that we shuffled out that ponder means our opponent's way more likely to send it than if we kept a card. But I don't think we can play that mind games with our opponent when those cards just weren't doing it for us. Right, we're getting the Hedge Maze in with a Surveil. I surveilled an Illusionist, which means they probably got one here. There it is. Are they just going to go for it, or are they going to be weirdly cautious? So they already have the Cabal Therapy. That makes them relatively safe. It means as soon as they find a Narcomoeba, they can just immediately Cabal Therapy us and not care about us having the option of removing their graveyard. Whereas if it goes the other way around, then maybe we have a chance to exile something, at least in our opponent's mind, so it maybe makes them play the game slightly differently. I believe they are just going to continue going for it here. Now they've gone to this stage. They would have to have like 3 Narcomoebas in hand for us to win this game. There's the first Narcomoeba from our opponent. Yeah, we can call it a day here. Our opponent's going to see that they can win. Alright. Yeah, I think the game where they had the Nadu there and we played the conservative line where we went to get our basics so that we couldn't be wastelanded in case they were a Bantblade deck. That obviously ended up being a bad play, but we didn't have the information to necessarily do it then. But maybe we're supposed to at least have the option of sending the show and tell because Nadu is such a, like, I win the game button. Alright, we are 0-1. Let's go to round 2. Welcome to round 2. Do I want to keep a 1-lander with a Hedge Maze? Single wasteland and we're absolutely cooked. What does our hand actually do here? It's very, very defensive. I think we can do better here. This one is similar. I think I can keep this one. And what are we bottoming? I'm kind of tempted to bottom this Cunning Wish, since we already have the Emrakul, which is usually good enough off of show and tell. But by that same token, we could bottom the Emrakul and keep the Cunning Wish. And that's probably better. And also insulates us against Painter's Servant. This gives us a blue card as well. Like this basically wins the game off of it as well. Yeah, okay. The Emrakul goes here. We're slightly weaker against opposing show and tells because we can't just put our own Emrakul in. An Ancient Tomb isn't really what I'm about right now. That does give our opponent a decent chunk of information. But we should pick up lands in the course of digging for what we are after. We just need to not waste time by drawing these lands when we need to be digging towards the show and tell itself. Because we'll pick up lands somewhere along the lines. Like Planar Genesis, very good if you want a land. Alright, are we about to get scammed into oblivion? No, that's a basic island. And a ponder. Sophisticated, friendly human magic there. Ponders, no grief. If they immediately grief us, then sure. They did not shuffle off that ponder. Oakley dokely. I think we are... I think we're better off doing a Planar Genesis here. And then we can start brainstorming. We want more cards in our hand before we brainstorm in case, you know, we we play in Genesis, we don't get anything that's super amazing. Our black source means that we might have to consider... I was going to say we might have to consider the possibility of Bowmasters, but this is kind of worse than Bowmaster. Right, I don't want to have to play against the frog. It's just very strong. We can play around days here, so it has to be a force to protect this. And obviously they're going to force because it's so worth doing. But if we get cards out of our opponent's hand, it means they're not forcing our actual combo, and then they're also not having as many cards for the borrower. Right, let's cast this Planar Genesis. See what this finds us. I don't really want to dig for a force and try and force this. A daze. Alright, our opponent had it all. I think our chances of winning this game are very, very slim now. Okay, let's try a Brainstorm out. I guess we keep this Veil in. Then have this Ponder. Now what are we putting away here? Because we're going to shuffle some cards away with this Ponder. We want the Omniscience. The Omniscience Cunning Wish is a win if we can find the other piece. Put these two on top. We can just Ponder next turn. We can hold up this Veil of Summer. Protect our hand from potential griefs of our opponents on a more of a Rescaminator build rather than just regular Scam or the Dimir mid-range. How much damage would you like to deal to your opponent? Alright. Psychic Frog. Drawing them cards. There's a Wasteland. That's pretty terrible. So now we can't cast this Ponder that we've left on top. Yeah, everything is terrible. We also can't cast the next card, and our opponent's just drawing additional cards every turn. Whilst beating us down, which is a lot. Here's his Ancient Tomb. I guess we play it out. We can open up Wastelands for our opponent. Our opponent might be thinking about pitching more cards to increase the clock soon. Pause their end step means maybe they're thinking about something like an Entomb line. A Dress Down. Okay, so this is the Stifle Naught list. That's fine. It's not fine, but... I guess we have the option of cycling the Veil, but I'd rather not do that. So they're willing to not get an extra card off this Psychic Frog, just so they can Dreadnought. That seems interesting to me. Like, they're valuing getting the game done, like, a turn or two early. Oh, they just got one of these, have they? I don't think we can beat Annihilator on our permanents here. Yeah, so our opponent's been playing a bunch of stuff out, and they've still got so much more to live for. Alright. Let's get this island. Cast this Ponder. We're not really a deck that has a lot of permanents to sacrifice. In any order in a shuffle. An island. They Annihilator us. We probably have to get rid of the forest. And try and jam a Show and Tell. But if our opponent has... I guess we could get rid of the island because we already have one in hand. If they can just pitch all their cards and kill us this turn as well, right? Right. Pitching some cards here. So we've got 9 coming in at the moment. 10. They get rid of 2 more cards. That's lethal. In theory, we can still win. Okay. They're putting us to 1. That means our opponent has Force of Will blue card here. So we can't activate our Ancient Tomb. We've just had it there. Yikes. Absolutely bodied. Sure. So I think we want Carpet Flowers to deal with our opponent's Wastelands all up in our business. Do we want Dismember? It's not unhelpful. Our opponent looks like they're on the Dreadnought build rather than the like Scam build, so I don't think we need any graveyard shenanigans. I don't hate the Dismembers. Flusterstorm is a way that we can try and force things through. We'll see. So the Veils are probably great here. I don't know if they're running Griefs. They certainly could be. So I think that means we're probably getting rid of a couple of Impulse. We want to keep the Planar Genesis in. It's technically a better card. It does have a more restrictive mana cost, but mainly I want to see the new card in action. That's why we're keeping this one instead of the Impulse. The One Ring seems like a thing that can certainly help us out if our opponent's stripping our resources from us. But that gives us 2 Carpet Flowers. And if we want some interaction like this, how are we going to fit them in? Do we just try and ignore our opponent's threats? Like, Dismember's not going to work on their big threats anyway. It's just the Frog for the most part, and maybe the Bowmasters. But we can cover Bowmasters with the Veil. So if we just want a Flusterstorm to protect ourselves a little bit more, we can probably get rid of a Lorien Revealed because we bring in the Carpets, which are kind of like a mana source anyway. So I like that. Okay, this hand is just looking for one piece. We don't have any ways of cantripping to find it though. We do have a Hedge Maze available. So I guess we're starting on Fetch Land for Hedge Maze. We can Cunning Wish for an Impulse as well if we want to. I don't think we can throw away a hand that's got 2 of our 3 pieces, because we are basically a 3-card combo. And against a blue-black deck, we want to try and keep as many cards in hand so we don't just get immediately like scammed or whatever. I don't know if our opponent's running like scam. I don't think they're running the full-on Entomb package. You can't run that and the Dreadnought package. But whether or not they are running any amount of hand disruption, it's hard to tell. I'd be very surprised if they didn't have some combination of Thoughtseize or Grief in their deck. Right, let's get our Misty Rainforest ready to get that Surveil action going. We do need to be a little bit wary of Stifle. So I don't think we can just fetch into that land. But we also couldn't fetch into our opponent having a wasteland either. We couldn't just go and get the Hedge Maze. So we're kind of in a bit of an impasse here. We've got a Brainstorm though, which is the exact sort of card we want. As soon as our opponent cracks this land, we'll start doing some stuff. Let's Brainstorm. Okay, a spell that digs is handy. I don't believe we need this Lorien Revealed, so that can go. This isn't really a matchup where we're going to require this Boseiju, so that can go. Actually, is that true? Boseiju can deal with some of their things, can't it? We could keep the Lorien Revealed. No, we don't need to keep the Lorien Revealed here. Just thinking, do we actually want to get rid of this island or not? I guess we only need 1 blue source for the most part. So we can put these 2 back. And then we can go and fetch a basic. Yeah, so the Boseiju can deal with a Phyrexian Dreadnought or a Dress Down, which is not nothing. And now we're representing Veil of Summer, so our opponent's probably going to be a bit cagey about firing off something that targets us, which is something we don't really want to happen. So hopefully they take the cue there, and we can bluff them into not Thoughtseizing or Griefing us or whatever scary thing they have. So now we have a question of, are we doing anything with this Boseiju? A Ponder. I do like Ponders. Let's have a look. If we can find another island or something here. An Orcish Bowmasters. Don't particularly want to play against the Bowmasters. I think I'm willing to pitch this Cunning Wish. Because what we're looking for now is Show and Tell. We can play around days. A Carpet of Flowers is a pretty good draw. It gives us a lot of mana to work with. It's going to make it very difficult for our opponent to wasteland us. Do I play around days by playing out this Boseiju, which is our only answer to a Dreadnought or Dress Down? Or is that time passed? This is a really tough call. I think I play out the Boseiju. This allows us to cast the Planar Genesis in our second main phase. Yes, we'll have some blue mana. Cast the Genesis. So we say no to this. Then we put this Show and Tell into our hand. Okay, we've got a lot of mana to work with for next turn. So we can attempt to Show and Tell around soft permission. If our opponent doesn't commit anything to the board, we maybe continue to try and sculpt our hand so that we can play through any permission our opponent has. Like Force of Negation and Force of Will are cards that are probably in our opponent's deck here. I'd be very surprised they boarded out Force of Wills, and I would imagine they have at least some number of Force of Negations to grab from the sideboard. So I don't just want to play straight into that. We've got our combo, we just need to find a way of forcing this through. Okay. Yes, we just add a little blue mana. I'm not going to play this. Am I going to play this Show and Tell? Our opponent's got 6 cards in hand. They've just Brainstormed. I think we can find like a Veil or a Flusterstorm or something. We've got a couple of Veils in our deck still, right? No, we have all 4 Veils, right? Yes. Okay. We can also go get Hedge Maze. We don't care if it gets wastelanded because we've got the carpet now. It's just Dress Down. Sure, our opponent's going to put in some kind of reasonably sized monster. Is it going to be the Null Drifter, or are we just going to get classic Dreadnought? The 2 cards off the Drifter are kind of scary. A Wasteland. Don't care about that one. Well, that's not true, actually. We do care because it means that Boseiju is useless. Because it will never untap to give us our uncounterable Show and Tell. Oh, they got both. I see. That is a lot of power. So we might be priced into having to go for it here. After our opponent's just drawn some more cards. Come on, Hedge Maze. Find me that Veil or something. Another Omniscience. That doesn't help here. So Boseiju extracted, that'd suck. A Lorien Revealed. How much mana do we get here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we could Lorien Revealed if we find a mana source. So we could try and Lorien Revealed here. And see if our opponent That's actions, because we do get to survive one hit from this, right? We go to 1. Although we are dead to Bowmasters if we do that. Do they counter the Lorien Revealed? Probably. I have 1 more mana. We could use it as a bait spell. Do we have the luxury? We cast this. We have to hope they don't have a Bowmasters. They put us to 1. Then we attempt to show and tell. I think we do cast the Lorien Revealed here. I wouldn't fault somebody for doing it differently though. But I don't think we can just slam the show and tell into our opponent who's been sculpting with Brainstorms and drawing extra cards with Null Drifter. Especially when they didn't fight over something earlier and they just wanted to keep hold of our action. If they don't counter this, then that's pretty good for us, obviously, because we get to draw 3 cards. If they do counter it, maybe we get to go through next turn. That fetch land is not the one, is it? So we're going to cycle this Lorien Revealed now. We're going to get ourselves a Tropical Island. Play the Tropical Island. And hope our opponent doesn't have an Orcish Bowmasters. What can we shoot for with our Wish as well? We got anything exciting? Sublime Epiphany is a little bit steep. It's going to put us to 1 and we're going to sacrifice a permanent. I think we're going to sacrifice this Boseiju. Like, if they had a Bowmaster earlier, they would have played it earlier as well. Okay, we're losing another land. They could have wastelanded themselves. Oh, we're losing another land. Hopefully that's all our opponent has to interact with us. Petty theft on the carpet. Okay. That is pretty bad for us. All of our permanents. We had so many. Guess we play the carpet. This is the Force of Will. That, yeah, so they had the Force of Will that we were playing around this whole time. Okay, we'll play this out. And we will kill ourselves with a show with a tomb activation, I guess. Yeah. Tough. Blue-black cards and Legacy, pretty good right now. I think, like, we showed we were definitely right to try and play around that Force of Will. It was just a little bit too tough for us to get through. Like, that last turn where they had multiple things they could force through. Like, if they didn't, like, wasteland us a bunch and stuff, maybe we get to do things a little bit differently there. Maybe we're not supposed to fight over that Bowmasters. That's kind of the main decision point, I think, here, was whether or not we fight over the Bowmasters. But that's going to be 3 power immediately and hit us down, so that's going to be a clock that we have to deal with that's going to make all of our future cantrips worse. And I think the situation we were in meant that we couldn't just let that Bowmasters lie, because our deck requires some amount of cantripping. Alright, we're 0-2, let's go to round 3. Okay, Island Ponder. It's a tropical island, but I will keep this. We've got 2 show and tells, so we can use these to try and get through counter magic later. Let's cast a Ponder. Yeah, I like all these tools. I think we put the Brainstorm above the Impulse in case we get wastelanded here. We want to make sure we've got another land so we don't get wastelanded. If they don't get wasteland us, then we can just cast this Planar Genesis, and that's very good. Alright, nothing there. We can also Brainstorm with fetch land. That's the thing we're allowed to do. Our opponent's a Lorien deck with an Arid Mesa. That probably means Death and Taxes, but it's not a sure thing. Let's go for Brainstorm. Many, many show and tells. We definitely don't need all of these show and tells. Do we need a Lorien Revealed? Probably not. But what are we doing with the rest of our mana? If we think our opponent's on Death and Taxes, we don't actually need multiple show and tells. Kind of have to make a call now. Arid Mesa is such an unusual land in a Lorien deck that isn't playing Death and Taxes. But I think we're okay to just have the one show and tell, and it should resolve. I don't think this is going to be a counter magic deck. Elegant Parlor. Now, our opponent could be on some other fruity stuff that gets us, and that's cool. And we always can just not crack this Flooded Strand if we want to draw another show and tell. The Phantom, you say. Understood. So this is going to shuffle for us anyway. So we'll go and get ourselves a basic island. And then I think we're probably better off casting... getting the Hedge Maze here, rather than going for the Lorien Revealed cycle. We do not require an Ancient Tomb. That should give us our opponent enough information to work out what we're probably playing. A Ponder. I think I'll Ponder here. This is any orange shuffle, I think. A Lorien Revealed. I can play out this Ancient Tomb. The Planar Genesis puts the land in tapped, so we may as well do this in our opponent's turn. Although we're going to be casting the Impulse. This is the sort of matchup we should be pretty reasonable into. Caracas, okay. Another one of these, sure. I'm going to target our Ancient Tomb or our Hedge Maze. What do you fancy, opponent? Our Hedge Maze. I have a response. I would like to cast. Do we cycle the Lorien Revealed first, right? We're about to get another basic out of our deck. Then we'll cast this Impulse. Cunning Wish, Boseiju. I guess the Genesis is going to be really hard to cast, but if we take this Flooded Strand, that allows us to cast a Genesis in our hand. That's probably the way forward, isn't it? Actually, that's not true, because this doesn't fetch our Trop because it's already in the graveyard. That was a bit of a mistake, wasn't it? Oh, actually, no, we can still cast the Genesis off of this forest we're about to get, right? That's fine. Didn't really want this Flooded Strand. We can cast a Genesis here. That seems pretty reasonable. If we find the Omniscience, we just get to win this turn. I do like winning. Let's try and do that. That's not very exciting, is it? So I think this is a no for putting one of these in, and we'll put this Force of Will into our hand. I think we play out this island, and we're probably just going to Impulse again. And we've got a Force of Will. I feel pretty happy about this position. Alright, we're going to take 4 here. I just don't think our opponent's going to be able to disrupt us too much. Stoneforge Mystic. Is this the thing we fight over? It buys us more time. I guess what we do is we cast the Impulse. And then we see what we draw. Because if we can combo next turn, we don't really care about Stoneforge. But if we can't... okay, so we could put in an Emrakul, but that doesn't do anything for us here. So putting these on the bottom, it's probably best to take the Genesis here. Takes 4 cards and we're looking for one specific thing. This means that we're probably Force of Winning this to buy us more time. And we can pitch this Lorien Revealed. That seems reasonable to me. Mother Runes, we don't care about that. Veil of Summer, it's not really what this game is about right now, is it? So let's fire off for Genesis. Say no, and then we put this Omniscience into our hand. We don't have anything we can fetch off this that matters. So I'm going to cast Omniscience here. Let's get a free Cunning Wish. So we get shared summons here. Or do we just get the Firemind's Foresight? If we get Firemind's Foresight, that can get us another Cunning Wish, which gets us to shared summons. That seems pretty reasonable here. So we get a Cunning Wish. We can get an Impulse. We can get a Brainstorm. Now we can Cunning Wish. We can go and get shared summons. We cast shared summons. We get these 2 creatures. We cast Emrakul. They can Caracas this, but it doesn't matter because we just recast it with the Omniscience every time. Go attacks. They could just take this. That'd be interesting. So I'm going to take it and they can bounce it. So now what are we doing? We can cast this for free. Granted is the one that gets us any card from our sideboard. We can go and get Sublime Epiphany. Let's just dig for some more cards here. So this can counter the Caracas activation if we want it to. I guess I'll take this Lorien Revealed. Alright, our opponent's scooping it up. We basically have everything we want here. So what we can do is we can do this, shuffle in our Emrakul if we need to by creating... Oh no, this is target, so we won't be able to target actually. Yeah, like we have all the things we want. We're going to draw a million cards. We can then go into our... Once we've got more cards, we can go into our sideboard. We can go and fetch, release the answers if we want to, try and brainstorm a way that that's going to work for us. We can get removal if we need to. It's just fine. We have an Emrakul that's attacking and all our spells are free. Don't really need to think on that one too hard. A couple of Dismembers is probably all we want. And these Veil of Summers look pretty bad. Which means we're trying to find 2 other things to slot in. Becomes a little bit tricky. This is kind of a tough one. And what are we supposed to slot in here? Force of Negation is unlikely to do very much against our opponent's deck. Do I want a Sublime Epiphany in the main deck? Like, we have to put something in, and these Veil of Summers do literally nothing this matchup. I guess we can board in a Wipe Away. That does something. I just don't think Force of Negation is going to do very much here. Sublime Epiphany is 6 mana. That's probably not doing very much either. So maybe a Force of Negation is slightly better because it's at least the thing we can cast. Sure, I'll give it a go. Maybe our opponent has Vexing Baubles, and we want to be able to deal with those because Omniscience, all the spells we cast will be countered by Vexing Bauble. Okay, we can do this. Got the ability to dig. We've got access to land, so we don't just get absolutely bodied. Thoughtseize. Our hand isn't the most Thoughtseize proof thing I've ever seen. They just hit our show and tell and then says extract it. I'm not really sure what our plan is here. I wasn't expecting them to have much in the way of, like, I think they have maybe 4 Thoughtseizes, and I don't think that's worth keeping the Veils in for. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we are supposed to keep the Veils in, but 4 Thoughtseizes in a 75 card deck. We're just going to be sat on these Veils that we can't cycle, at least if they just had any blue cards that we could cycle. They did not take our show and tell. That is very suspicious. Let's play Misty Rainforest and pass. See what our opponent deploys, and then we can make some decisions. Not a wasteland, so that's good. Interesting. They're casting this now when it has flash. That is curious to me. I'm going to go and get this Tropical Island. And then I'm going to cast a Brainstorm. We can shuffle in the upkeep with the Lorien Revealed if we want to. More show and tells. That's a little bit of Thoughtseize insulation if we want it. And just like a bunch of cantrips. Seems fine. I can have the dog. I think I'm happy to actually draw the Ponder. And then we will Lorien Revealed. Get ourselves a basic island here. Play island and cast Ponder. I like the Omniscience, that's for sure. So we could put it in our hand. Actually, let's just check the text of that little white creature. So it is a May on the search. So I'm just debating whether we hold the Omniscience on the top of our library, or we protect ourselves from that protects from Thoughtseize, but it doesn't protect against the guy that domes our lands. I mean, we have to draw this and then Lorien Revealed, and then we're just going to be at the mercy of the Thoughtseize for the next turn anyway. So I guess we're probably putting them like this. And presumably we can string together a win with an Omniscience in play. We're going to find some more mana, but we can worry about that later. Alright, so this is the thing we just played around, and we were rewarded. Yes, I'll go and get an island. That shuffles, so maybe we can draw the land now and just go off. Be tasty. They get to blow up another one of our lands. I'm enjoying what our opponent's doing. It's very much my wheelhouse of removing people's lands. Oh, this only hits non-basics actually, so that's not too... It's not strictly Ghost Quarter, it's slightly different. Can we draw a land? We cannot draw a land. Interesting. I think I want to Brainstorm here when there's no Bowmasters available to our opponent. Okay, I like having the Force of Will. And... what else do we want? I don't think we need an additional show and tell. And then we're probably just chucking away a cantrip of some description. Is it the Brainstorm? I think we put the Brainstorm back. Is that true? If we put the Brainstorm back, we can Ponder right now and try and find a land. And that gives us the Lorien Revealed. We could just put back the other show and tell. If we Lorien Revealed for the other land, it guarantees the land, and we can use our spells to find some more juice down the line. I think this is the most sensible way of doing it. Then we play this Ponder. Okay, so the Cunning Wish should be the game here. So we put these cards. If we get our library shuffled again, I want to have the... We are not necessarily getting our library shuffled, are we? Right, we have a Force of Will that we can point at wherever we need to as well. Feels like we should be able to knit this together into a victory. We've got a lot of basics. I wonder if they're running Ghost Quarter alongside White Orchid Phantom. Because Ghost Quarter can hit our lands here. Now we do still have basics to find. Alright, not a Ghost Quarter. I think if you want to do that, you want to like double up on those effects as much as possible, maybe. So we're going to get Crunch for 5 here. They don't need to blink anything. It just takes away their clock and doesn't achieve anything. If they had a Flagstones, they could maybe blow their own Flagstones up. They're just going to bap us for a little bit of damage. Right, I'd like to cast a Show and Tell. Pyroblast. We can't spell that with this Brainstorm. Can I Show and Tell? Thalia, if they have it, would be kind of annoying, but why wouldn't they have played it before now? Cast this Cunning Wish for free. Let's get the Firemind's Foresight. Let's cast this. So we're going to get ourselves another Cunning Wish. We're going to get ourselves a Planar Genesis. We're going to get ourselves a Brainstorm. Now we're going to cast this. Say yes to Cunning Wish's ability. Shared Summons. We're going to cast this. Got our 2 creatures here. And then we're going to cast Granted. Going and getting the Release the Ants. Then we're going to cast this Brainstorm. We'll put this on top, and then we'll put the Emrakul on top. We'll cast Release the Ants, targeting our opponent. I believe we're probably going to win the clash. Our opponent enjoys the clashing action. And if for some reason this goes wrong, we can always just Planar Genesis, get the Emrakul back. Our opponent appreciated the Release the Ants, and so do I. Alright, our first win has come at the hands of releasing some ants. Let's go to round 4. Welcome to round 4. We've got Iron Ponder. We also have the One Ring, which is something we haven't had so far. So I'm curious to see how this pans out. It's a pretty powerful Magic the Gathering card. City of Traitors. Lotus Petal. Alright. Sneak Attack. That's pretty strong. Why couldn't they have cast Show and Tell? So we are very much priced into trying to find a solution to this madness. Let's cast a Ponder. Force of Will, you're a touch late. We need to find Show and Tell and Omniscience and hope our opponent doesn't kill us. So this is in any order in a shuffle, I think. Alright. I'm assuming our opponent just gets to kill us with a sneak attack now. Yep. Like, we could have kept the Force of Will to try and Force of Will any way that they get red mana. But then that hand doesn't get us where we need to go. What would you like to reveal with this sneak attack? They can play a mountain and this Archon of Cruelty. That's pretty tasty. So that's like 9 plus 7 is 16 damage. But they also get the One Ring going here. But maybe they brick on for several turns. Actually, they put in the Spirit Guide as well. There's 9 plus 7 is 16, 17, 18. Alright. Surprised they didn't... Okay. Oh, they just have an Emrakul. Well, that is enough for me. So Show and Tell is not a liability because we're only going to cast it when we can immediately win the game. Alright. Force of Negation. I would very much like to have you along for the ride. Our opponent is the mono red build, but they usually splash for Show and Tell, so maybe we get our opponent because they don't know what we're doing. I think Flusterstorm is interaction, and I just need to have some interaction. These Veil of Summers are bad. That gives us one more slot to try and squeeze in. What would I like to try and squeeze in? Assertive Extraction, if we can counter the first of something, maybe that's okay. That sounds pretty weak. It's either that or like Dismember for Magus of the Moon, which also sounds pretty bad. Or we could bring in a Wipe Away and try and just get rid of the sneak attack. I don't really like that very much. I don't like the options we have. So what does that mean? Are we just bringing in Wipe Away because it's a blue card for Force of Will? Yes, we are. Okay. No. I don't think we can keep that one. Okay, we have a Force of Will. That is part of the plan. I think we'll probably get rid of the Genesis here. And then we can get a Ponder going right on the off. I think we're just getting a basic island here. Okay, I would like this Emrakul in our hand. Do I want these other cards? I think so. So our opponent casts a Show and Tell. We can just put in an Emrakul. And that should be pretty tasty. A Lotus Petal. City of Traitors. Do it. Do it. A Vexing Bauble. That card is so good against our deck. It's so good against that. We can't allow this. I think we have to get rid of the Cunning Wish. So we can show and tell in the Emrakul. And oh no! Oh no. Uh-oh. That's gone very poorly. Yikes. Okay. Let's hope our opponent casts show and tell. That's how we're winning this game now. Jeez. We do have a wipe away. We can maybe get rid of the bauble at end step and then do something. But we can't do Omniscience things into Vexing Bauble. Maybe we're supposed to keep the Veil just to play around Vexing Bauble because it says spells can't be countered. It doesn't say from what source. So it will stop Vexing Bauble. Oh, jeez. I think the upgrade that other decks get in Vexing Bauble was a lot better than the update that we get in Planar Genesis here. Okay, this feels like they're casting something large. The One Ring, that is quite large. That was a very good Magic the Gathering card. Pitching the Cunning Wish means our opponent probably knows what we're on, which is awkward. We will get the Trop here because we have Planar Genesis in our deck. Alright, let's see some more cards. This Omniscience doesn't do anything, but it is part of our plan eventually. Right? I think we just have to take the wipe away though. Oh, I hate that. I hate that so much. Fae of Wishes. Do we have anything in our sideboard that helps us here? Not particularly. We could go and get... Actually, that's not true. We can get the Veil of Summer when we need to try and go off that way. Alright. We have a game plan slowly emerging, and it's going to be an absolute pain in the ass. But here we are. I believe they will put some sort of win on the stack before the One Ring kills them. Also, because they've seen the Cunning Wish, they're less likely to cast a show and tell if they have them in their deck. We haven't seen the Volcanic Islands from our opponents. They might just be straight up mono red. Sure, more baubles. So the wipe away plan doesn't look good, so it is going to have to be Fae of Wishes getting the Veil of Summer. That's going to be our route out of here. I think we need to hold up this wipe away for now. Planar Genesis, that's something we can certainly do in our opponent's turn if they do nothing. I'm not feeling very good about this game. Alright, they're cracking the Vexing Bauble. I'll be honest, I really like the mono-red Sneak and Breach deck. I think it's a good place to be, actually, if you want to be playing sneak attacks. I think that's the best shell for it at the moment. I'm not a big fan of the blue-red. I think blue-red is fine. It has good tools. But it's not my jam. That is a sneak attack. No response from our opponent. So we could wipe away this in response to a Lotus Petal. Let's go for this Planar Genesis. I don't really want any of those. We do need this Omniscience if we're going to win the game at some point. Show and tell. Oh, we are so close here. So we play this. This is going to start countering all of our spells is the problem. Split Second doesn't get round because this is a triggered ability. We don't have enough mana to do everything we want. We probably have to bounce this sneak attack. I can't imagine they won't have a threat here. Vexing Bauble, why are you doing this to me? Thought we were friends, Vexing Bauble. You've been so nice on my side of the board. We are not playing a Vexing Bauble deck today. So I think we have to wipe this away now. Oh, I don't have an end step. I don't have a thing where I would normally have one in my end step there. Oh no, that's bad news. That is bad news. So we can just wipe this away now. Or we could hope they miss and try and... We could hope they miss, and then we can try and wipe away this at end step and just try and win the game. If we bounce this, our opponent replays it this turn. Most likely. Then what do we do? Then if we draw... Hey, we just don't have a way of getting through this Vexing Bauble. Are we supposed to... I think we just have to hope we get lucky here, right? If we bounce this, they will just replay it this turn. And then what? Next turn they activate it. We're in the same spot we were. We don't have any draw that helps us. If we draw an Ancient Tomb, we get 4 mana. And then we tap this for mana. And we have 1 left over, so we can't even do what we need to. I think we just have to get lucky. Hope that they like put in an Atraxa or something. And they can't... I guess they can crack their own Vexing Bauble. But in response, we can bounce the sneak attack and then go off. Because they can't play a Lotus Petal. Right, it's going to be an Emrakul, just kill us though, isn't it? Archon of Cruelty. Okay, we can beat this. It's going to attack. That is a bit of a problem. How do we... Oh, this is horrible, this game. We can't discard 2 cards and still win the game. So I think we get rid of the Fae of Wishes here. Putting in something else off of this sneak attack. Another Archon of Cruelty. So we're going to lose 1 card here and then another card. We're also... So if we bounce this, they replay it next turn and we lose. Yeah, I don't think we can beat that. Our opponent is much better at doing the thing than we are because their deck is just about doing the thing, whereas we're trying to do a thing that's not just putting big monsters in, we're trying to also do some other stuff by having our Omniscience go off and doing it that way. Because our combo isn't put a big monster in, our combo is put in Omniscience. Yeah, that was rough. Vexing Bauble, maybe the metrics have changed and we are supposed to have the Veil of Summers in a matchup like this. Like a Veil of Summer would have made that pretty rudimentary to win if we'd have had that instead of like a Wipe Away or whatever. Alright, we're learning. We're going to the final round now, and we are unfortunately 1 and 3, so not a good record. Let's see if we can put 2-3 on the board. Right, we're on the play for the final round. What does our hand achieve here? We've got half of what we're trying to do for the most part. I think this is fine. I don't really want to cast any blue spells straight up here, so we're going to just lead out on the forest and hold this Veil. Polluted Delta. Engraved here. Could be. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. Alright, I don't think this is what we're countering. We're just going to try and force through our thing in a bit. The One Ring. That's a pretty good Magic the Gathering card. I'm going to go and fetch for a basic island right now. To play around potential stifles if our opponent is like a Grixis build or whatever. We can end a turn, Planar Genesis if we want. Maybe that gets us to... Oh, they're going for a Thoughtseize here, are they? Well, I guess what we're actually doing is casting this Veil of Summer. That will tell our opponent they're up to no good. Right, we have the One Ring next turn with Forcible backup. That also feels like a pretty nice place to be. We haven't got to do One Ring stuff yet, so I'm looking forward to that. That Wasteland won't affect us, so we'll get the mana out of it as soon as we go for it. I don't think we need to Brainstorm here. Do we? I think we just want to have more cards and get deeper with the Brainstorm in a bit, because we're going to have a turn off anyway. Stormfist Crusader. Right, we have a win if we can find the show and tell now. Orcish Bowmaster is definitely a thing our opponent can have. Okay, so we have the win ready to go next turn. With Force of Will backup. And they can't Thoughtseize us this turn because of the One Ring. Okay, so now we just need a mana. And there's quite a lot of that in our deck. I'll happily just tap the One Ring into a Bowmaster in this situation as well. We do have to crack this. Just get this. Cast a Show and Tell. Put in Omniscience. Put in the Emrakul. We don't need to do anything fancy here. It's good old-fashioned Emrakul game in. Alright. So, black-red. Some sort of aggro-y looking thing. Dismembers interest me here, I think. Do I think our opponent is doing scam stuff? It's a possibility. Maybe that means we're going for Grafdigger's Cage. But why would you play Scam and Stormfist Crusader? I don't think they're cards that play well together. So I'm just going to have these Dismember. Because you don't want to strip your opponent's resources, then just give them more resources. It kind of feels like a weird way. So I'm not expecting our opponent to be on Scam, so I'm just going to board in a couple of removal spells and call it a day. Our opponent's not playing counter magic. We do have to worry about Thoughtseizes, but we should be able... Also, yeah, they showed us Thoughtseize, which is usually either or with that and Grief, unless you're in some sort of combo deck that really needs more hand disruption. Right, this opener is not where we want to be, so we're going to send this one back. This is another one which is not where we want to be, so it goes back. Okay, we'll keep this one. I don't think we can afford to have Force of Wills in this hand. And I don't really like the Boseiju very much either. Do I like the Boseiju just as another land? No, I think I would rather have the Veil of Summer. It's beginning with a Scalding Tarn. And nothing out of it. That's interesting. Alright. We've got a lot of the pieces we require. Nope. This isn't any order in shuffle for me. Okay, we have all of the pieces. We just need the mana now. Kind of wish I kept that Boseiju a little bit instead of this Veil now. Just because we're looking for mana. But mana's a very abundant thing in our deck. So, I believe. Scalding Tarn into the bin. What are they getting out of it? A Badlands. Not a surprise from what we've seen so far. Our opponent does look like a full-on Rakdos deck here. Thoughtseize. Okay, we're going to lose our show and tell here. If they've got a Surgical to follow this up, we're going to be in a pretty rough place. They took the Cunning Wish. Wasteland. Can we draw Ancient Tomb? Not an Ancient Tomb. I don't really want to play this Tropical Line out into the known Wasteland. So I guess we're at the mercy of any hand disruption they have here, because we don't get to cast this Veil. If we find a basic, we can play a basic and then use a Tropical as our third land. A Channeler, not a problem. Give us a land. Not a land. But it is quite likely to find one. Let's ponder. It's kind of a land, but I think we can probably do better than this. Boseiju. Alright, we'll play this and eat our opponent's wasteland. If they don't, then they're in trouble. Another Channeler. They have to wasteland us here, surely. They know we're just trying to cast a 3-mana spell. Really? Are they going to waste in our upkeep? If you're going to waste in our upkeep, I don't know why you don't just... Oh, well, they're just letting us go for it. Okay. A Vexing Bauble. Aha! Our old enemy, Vexing Bauble. So they can take out our Trop. Vexing Bauble is such a good card. Big fan of this card. Obviously, we're on the receiving end of it and it's not very nice, but it is such a useful tool in the format as well. And it kind of is a nice equalizer because it's really good against the blue decks and the combo decks. So it's kind of doing something for the other decks. Obviously, there are combo decks that run Vexing Bauble, which is pretty gross, but I love it. Alright, we're not taking huge amounts of damage. We've got another green source. Skewer the critics. Alright, just a burn spell to the face. I think this is the 3 damage one, isn't it? I'm not seeing this art for it before. I'm not sure I like cards that have the word prosperity at the top where the name would normally be. That's my own personal opinion there. They left a card on top. That could be problematic for us. If we draw a fetch land that can get our forest, then we're golden. Otherwise, we need to try and get through a wasteland. Hedge Maze. This is not what we require. It can go into the graveyard. Don't wasteland us, and then we get to Veil of Summer and try and win the game. That's not a wasteland. Okay. We don't want to get Thoughtseize now, is the other thing we're trying to dodge. Lightning Bolts. Spawn of Mayhem. Okay. Our opponent's deck looks pretty cool. They can sacrifice this Vexing Bauble. If they want to as well. I doubt they would want to do that. Do they have a Lightning Bolt here? If they do, we are donezo. They might have a Skewer the Critics. And that's why they're waiting until after they attack. Much of a muchness, really. Boom. In our face. There it is. Alright, we got burned out. Pretty cool. I think what we've got here is fine. Do I want something like a Flusterstorm? Or I think I like Force of Negation because it counters the Veil. Not the Veil, the Bauble. Do we actually need these Dismembers? I don't think we do. I think we can do better than this. Okay. We keep and bottom this show and tell. The idea is that if our opponent draws one of their Thoughtseizes, we can Veil of Summer that. Alright. Let's go and get our... I think we have to get the Trop here so we can cast an Impulse next turn. It's Veil of Summer. So if we draw an Omniscience, that would be lovely. Not an Omniscience. Do I want to play this Hedge Maze and get one Surveil? Or do I want to... I think I want the Impulse. It costs us life, which is relevant in this matchup. But I think the Impulse is better than just having a single Surveil here. It also gives us the ability to dig for a Force of Will if we require one for something game ending. There's a Wasteland. Hitting the Ancient Tomb. A Thoughtseize. This is always going to hit the show and tell, isn't it? So we let them hit this and then we can Impulse afterwards and try and pick up the pieces. Island, Force of Will, Veil of Summer. Is it the Veil here? It's probably the Veil. It's the easiest way that we can beat the Vexing Bauble. Alright, that's certainly part of the puzzle. Lorien Revealed is the next land. I think I'll put this on top. Our opponent's shown us they got Wastelands in their deck. I just want to be safe. Scalding Tarn. A Dragon's Rage Channeler from our opponent. Is this another Thoughtseize? It is another Thoughtseize. 3 Thoughtseize in 10 cards. It's quite a lot. But we have veiled 2 of these Thoughtseizes, so it's not really too big a deal. The only issue is if they get the Bauble down, and then we're kind of like stuck underneath that. Let's have another veil. There's that Lorien Revealed that we left on top. A Show and Tell. That is quite a nice one to see, isn't it? Let's... If we Planar Genesis instead of Island Cycling here, then we can use the Lorien Revealed. But Genesis, once we've got the Omniscience in play, we'll see more cards. I think I am just going to cycle this Lorien Revealed. It's not so much the raw cards that matters, it's specific cards. Please don't Vexing Bauble me, opponent. I think they would cast it pre-combat if they had it, because it gives them the ability to possibly find some Delirium somewhere along the lines. Although they would need 2 new types in their graveyard to get Delirium, so maybe they're just going to play it second main. They did keep their card on top. If it's the 4th Thoughtseize, then that'd be quite funny. Lotus Petal. Okay, weird they didn't cast that before then, because they could have played this and then cracked it to get Delirium if they put the right thing in the bin. The Spawn of Mayhem. It is the Spawn of Mayhem. At the beginning of your upkeep, it deals 1 damage to each player. Then if you have 10 or less life, put a +1/+1 counter on it. I'm quite a fan of this guy. It's a nice big beefy boy. Okay, Planar Genesis is. We say no to this. And we'll take this Brainstorm. Right, it's our time to shine. I hate this pause. Was our opponent going to Surge Extract us? No. Let's Show and Tell. Let's put in this Omniscience. Let's hope they don't put in a Bowmaster, so that could be kind of annoying. Let's cast the second one. Okay, so we cast the Brainstorm first. Okay. These cards are good. Cast this for free. And we just go to our second turn. We can do stuff with Fae of Wishes. We don't need to. And I respect mine and my opponent's time. Alright, so we finished with a 2-3 there. We got pretty hard-bodied by the blue-black Dreadnought deck, that's for sure. And the mono-red Sneak Attack deck absolutely gave us a thumping too. And the other round we lost was a bit more even, but we didn't quite get there. We beat the non-counterspell decks, apart from the combo deck that was doing our same thing as us, but faster, basically. So let's talk about this list. So my immediate reaction is, why are we playing this version of Show and Tell deck when you see it? Like, at the top I said the Veil of Summer is very good, but I don't think this necessarily outweighs the fact that we need to cobble together 3 cards for our combo effectively. So we need the Show and Tell, the Omniscience, and something to do with the Omniscience. Now, yes, we can have a lot of cantrips, but sometimes it doesn't get there. We are still a 3-card combo, even if we do have a lot of cantrips that are free once we do part of our thing. Whereas there are lots of versions of Show and Tell, whether you're playing the blue-red version or the mono-red that basically just splashes Show and Tell. Those versions, they are more like 2-card combos where there's just lots of redundancy. And on top of that, we are living in the age of blue-black scam, which is going to pick apart your hand, taking very specific pieces. So yes, Veil of Summer is great against those decks. But let's say your opponent's on the play. What's your Veil of Summer going to do when your opponent takes 2 pieces out of your hand at the start? Absolutely nothing, and then you're going to be so far behind. Or, you know, let's say you just don't draw your Veil of Summer and your opponent just gets to grief you and take your hand. Because we're trying to find, like, 3 specific things, pretty much. It means that we are very susceptible to hand disruption here. Which is, you know, that's why you run the Veil of Summer, to help that. But it's still a bit awkward. And also, the Vexing Bauble is a new wrinkle that I hadn't considered before playing this one. And Omniscience and Vexing Bauble, that is hard. as a hard lock on the game until you can get your Veil of Summer. And I think that's fine, knowing that, but it means that you can't really board in many sideboard cards in many matches at all. I think you just need to keep your Veils in a lot, because you're either going to need to protect from like hand disruption or counter magic, or you're going to have to protect against Vexing Bauble type stuff. And you're kind of going to find most matchups involve some combination of those things. So, I don't know, it just feels like you have weaker options with this when you try and do that. And also, Show and Tell is kind of risky against Blue-Black Scam. Like, you have to do Show and Tell Omniscience. If you just do the Show and Tell Emrakul and your opponent puts in, like, an Archon of Cruelty, then you're going to have a horrible time. So it is a little bit sketchy on that front sometimes as well. I'm just not really a fan. I understand Planar Genesis gives us another way of digging 4 cards, which is, you know, which is decent. And the fact that it can find lands and help you out in that spot is really good too. But I'm not convinced this is where I would want to be if I was playing a Show and Tell deck. I think if I was playing some sort of put big monsters into play deck, I would want to be playing the mono red or the blue red builds. Those are sort of where my heart lies. I think the current trophy leader at the moment in the leagues is like a dedicated sneak and show player. I'm pretty sure that's the case. So that deck's obviously got a new lease of life. I'm not really sure why it's got a new lease of life, because it seems like it should struggle a little bit into some of the things in the format. Let me just pull up one of the blue-red lists as well quickly. All right, so this is one of the blue-red lists. This is from the person who is the current trophy leader, I think. At least they were last time I checked, I think. So this list is quite a different beast. It is dipping into green for Veil of Summer, which is obviously a useful tool. That also gives them things like Carpet, which is one of the better cards in our sideboard as well. And it does have 2 Omniscience, so it is doing a little bit of Omni-Tell type stuff. But it is also having the ability to do sneak attack lines, and it's got more copies of the One Ring as well. It's got more generic interaction off of the days. It is having to skim on Ponder a touch, but I think that's fine. The Arcane Artisan is an interesting one. That's a card that's like 3 mana, and you can pay 3 and draw a card, discard a card, and then you make a copy of the thing you've discarded. Just kind of like another version of Sneak Attack. So maybe we'll try this on the channel at some point. I'm not like a big aficionado of playing Show and Tell decks by any stretch of the imagination. I haven't played them very much. I prefer playing the mono red one, actually. That's what absolute barrel laughs. But this is probably like where you want to go if you want to play Show and Tell decks rather than what we're playing today. That being said, it's always nice trying to try new things, and I'm happy because I got to release the Ants and win with that card, and that's been a long time since I've even seen this card played, let alone actually win a game with it. So big fan of that one. I think with that we are done with this league, so I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe and help the channel out that way. And if you would like to see something specific on this channel, by all means get in touch. I do have a donation deck feature, so we can sort out a donation deck for you if you get in touch via the Discord, which is linked in the description, or you can just leave a comment and get back to me, or find me on like Twitter or whatever. Contact me through the Patreon. Anything that floats your boat, we can work together and get some sort of deck that you want to see on here. And that really does help support the channel. Okay, thank you so much for joining me on this one, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.